Hello, Shirley team, and welcome to the February 2024 Supervisor Safety Meeting. Before we get into what we're going to discuss this month, I'd like to back up and let you all know that for the month of January, we had no recordables. Hats off to everyone for doing a great job. I know we're still emphasizing slips, trips, and falls, manual material handling, utilizing two people when it's weighs over 50 pounds or it has more than one handle to pick something up with, and also utilizing mechanized equipment when we have to. The month of February has not been so good to us. Within the past week, we've had 2 injuries, and I'd like to discuss those 2 injuries. Number one, a crew was sent to a different area on a job site when an employee was walking down a slope and slipped and twisted their knee, causing a strain to the right knee. The crew obviously had not been made aware of where the right access point was to get to the work area. Therefore, this employee took an alternate route of travel, which he should not have been taking, which led to him slipping, going down the slope and straining his knee. The second injury occurred within the past week. We were trying to load a water valve into the bucket of a load. We had 3 people attempting to lift this, and an individual strained his back. Although we say team lifting is a great thing, always keep in mind that we need to utilize mechanized equipment when we can to lift heavy items such as valves and things of that nature. With that said, we're still going to emphasize slips, trips, and falls as we did last year from January through March because of the winter months. We are not out of the winter months yet. We still have freezing, thawing conditions, snow. Then we're going to have rain off and on, and then into the spring we're going to get rain. So supervisors, please continue to discuss slips, trips, and falls on your SPAs daily and throughout the day, because the existing conditions may change from 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 a.m. in the morning, and then again at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So remember to cover that with your crews and look out for existing weather changes or existing ground conditions changing throughout the day. As far as manual material handling, always be sure you have sufficient manpower to pick up something when it's over 50 pounds. But what this month the structure crew has discussed is fall protection, guardrails, and harnesses, and how to properly wear a harness, and how to properly do a harness inspection. You all know that you need to be trained in fall protection, how to utilize a personal fall arrest system, such as a harness, and it has to be inspected daily prior to each use. And then they're going to discuss rigging and the importance of rigging and knowing how much weight it can pick up and which configuration it may be utilized in, and that the tags must be legible on the rigging at all times. If you ever have a question about rigging, or a question about fall protection, please be sure and reach out to your safety manager or to your supervisor or contact me. If you have any questions, thank you.
All right, I'm Kevin Rice out here at North Star Boulevard, Phase 1. I've been with Shirley Contracting going on 16 years. I'm a foreman, and we're here today to discuss fall protection and rigging. All right, we're going to discuss and cover 3 of the different types of rigging we use. One that we use predominantly often are chains, and all rigging should be inspected before every use. Depending on what you pick up, it is recommended sometimes to inspect them after use. But it's harder to do this without the crane. But usually what you do, you'll hook the bridle up to the crane, and you want to inspect and look at every link. And then once this goes airborne, you have these hooks. You want to make sure the hooks are sitting the same. These are supposed to be inspected annually, and the tags are supposed to be legible. All right, now we're going to start talking about synthetic straps and slings. A lot of this is going to get repetitive, but it's a necessary step. Same thing. You want to inspect your straps and slings prior to any use. You want to make sure you can see the tag is legible. You want to go through and actually look at every inch of the strap. Now, there's a lot of people, if you have nicks and frays, this has a cover. If the cover's ripped, the strap is still fine. But when you get down to like this part of the strap, if it starts getting nicked and cut, you got to take it out of service. And a lot of people talk about the red is dead line That does not apply, and there's a lot of companies that don't even use the red thread. You want to look for any abrasions, cuts, burns, and anything like that. If there's any rip, tear, or fray, you want to take this out of service, because the last thing you want to do is pick something up or swing a load and the strap rip and you have a fallen load. Next I'm going to talk about is wire rope. This one's a wire rope 4-way. Same thing applies. You want to make sure the tag is legible. And of course, with each one of these, there's little things you look for. Chains, it was like any breaks in the chains. With straps, it was the frays, tears, and stuff. With this, what you gotta look for is things like bird caging and threads broken or sticking out. And same thing applies. You just hook it up. You want to go through every single one of them. And even though these are technically multi-use, you can choke a load with them. What you gotta be careful about is kinking or putting a permanent bend in the wire rope. So what that does is it creates a weak point, and then actually from that point on, that is the way you have to use the wire rope, because basically it has a memory and it stays that one way. All right, now we're going to discuss harnesses and retractables. Same thing. You want to check this thing out and look it over before and after every use. Retractable, you want to pull out the cable, make sure it retracts in. Harnesses are good for 5 years from the date you put them in service. After that point, they need to be trashed and get a new harness. There is a date sheet, usually somewhere on the harness, right here, has all the paperwork. And same thing, they have all the ratings and everything. Thing about these retractables is they have class 1 and class 2. Shirley buys class 2 because these are for leading edge work and for tying off in basically this zone. Because realistically, if you could tie off above your head, yes, by all means, tie off above your head. But when you're working like out on the beams, the cable's at this level, you go to fall, if this hits the edge of the beam, it's not supposed to cut or break. And so class 2 retractables are for, like I said, all leading edge work and for tying off in some of the awkward positions we are when we're on form work, stuff like that. All right, now I'm going to demonstrate the proper way to put on the harness. First thing you want to do is grab by the D-ring and make sure everything's hanging properly. First thing you do, chest clip. Sometimes I do take my gloves off when I do this, and they go back on as soon as I'm done. All right, I do the waist belt. And then leg straps. And the thing about the leg straps, you don't want them tight, but you don't want them loose. You want them snug. So we do the 2-finger rule. If you can fit 2 fingers in there, that's snug enough. Because if it's too loose, you could have a problem. If it's too tight, you could have a problem. And your harness, sometimes you're going to have to readjust it often, especially when you're going from like the winter months and summer months. You're going to have to adjust it for if you're wearing layers and stuff like that. And that's basically how to put on your harness.